Well, we're sticking with cricket here on the SportsMax zone. And the finalists for the 2024 Massey Women's Caribbean Premier League were determined on Tuesday night when Trinbago Knight Riders pulled off a narrow 4-wicket victory over Barbados Royals at the Brian Lara Cricket Academy. Chamari Atapatu blasted the highest individual score of the tournament so far, 70, to push the Royals to 130 for 7 of their 20 overs. Well, there were 2 wickets each for 3 TKR bowlers, Samara Ramnath, Jamila Connell and Shikha Pandey. Chasing 131 in the must-win game, TKR found themselves in a spot of bother at 18 for 2, including the loss of captain Deandra Dottin. But an unbeaten 59 from Jemima Rodriguez lifted them to 131 for 6 to win, with 2 deliveries to spare, and end the defending champions' unbeaten streak. The result saw the Knight Riders overtake Guyana Amazon Warriors with 4 points and set up a repeat of the inaugural final, with the Barbados Royals, who finished on top with 6 points. Well, Nikhil, he's still with us. Nikhil, what a match last night, and it went down to the wire because, of course, many people felt as if with Deandra Dottin being dismissed, TKR would have, fallen apart, but they put up a really good fight, impressive stuff to ensure that they made the final.
Yeah, I think another great highlight, or I could say flyer for the WCPL, Maria, when you think about all these close matches. We had a super over a couple of nights ago. You've got all these games going into the last over. So it does tell you that, there is a bit of even quality spread throughout the 3 teams. I think probably these 2 teams that meet in the final were a step above the Amazon Warriors, who obviously were unlucky to miss Stephanie Taylor for a couple of games. But definitely last night, I enjoyed the tactics. I enjoyed the sort of roller coaster nature of the game, where at some stages you thought the Royals had an advantage with Atapatu and the way she finished the innings. But I thought both subcontinent batters who got 50, so Atapatu and Jamie Rodriguez, I thought the way that they sort of constructed their innings, knowing that, the depth is not really there. We haven't seen the depth in the middle to low order from either of these respective teams in the tournament. The way that they sort of mitigated risks and made sure that they got a big innings to ensure you got to something competitive in Atapatu's case, or for Rodriguez, you made sure you got to the runs. I thought that in itself was admirable, and I hope young batters in the region and some involved in this game just could watch to see, the way the areas in which they scored in, the selection of shots. And you just have to look at Rodriguez's last 4 to sort of seal the game, where she doesn't usually hit down the ground. But mid-off being up into the circle, she used her feet after so long and was able to hit it over mid-off for 4 and stepped outside of her comfort zone. I thought that, for me, was sort of the shot of the night. But, yeah, excellent from those 2. And, I mean, she's class. I really sometimes can't believe that she's 23 years old and has played 100 T20 internationals. You almost have to pinch yourself. But she really is, a standard that I think has been set in world cricket, and I hope young batters in the region can follow.
Yeah, what's for sure, Nikhil, as you point out these international players, is we really got some good top-class international players in this year's Women's CPL, and I think it's such an important point because earlier today I spoke to Nia Lachman. She'll be on our In Case You Missed It episode this week, and I asked her about the importance of being able, she's 19 years old, of course, and the importance of being able to share a dressing room with players like these. And she's part of the Guyana Amazon Warriors, so I asked her about the players she had in her setup, like Shabnim Ishmael, Chloe Tryon, Erin Burns, and she could not, she was so grateful for that opportunity because it gives her the opportunity now to get into the minds of these players, to listen to what they think about pressure situations. And I feel like this year's Women's CPL in particular, we got some really top-class international players.
Yeah, we did, Maria. I think you only have to look at last night. I do think there has been a reliance on the overseas batters specifically, where when they haven't gotten runs, the respective teams, like we saw a couple of nights ago, where 102 was made and the Amazon Warriors weren't able to get to it. And you don't really have any of the overseas names, and obviously no Hayley Matthews stepping up and getting a big score. But I think the quality that they've brought, as we've spoken about at length on this show, is only going to help the development of those younger players. Someone like Samara Ramnath, I mean, you talk about high-pressure situations. I am really impressed with what I've seen in this tournament. She's only got the 3 wickets, but I looked last night. To me, that was one of the game-changing moments in the game where she came on, broke the partnership between Rashada Williams and Atapatu, which was 32. And then the next delivery was able to get Laura Harris. And she's just very consistent on that length, never seems flustered, and she's 16 years old playing in the WCPL in a must-win game for TKR, bowling to one of, if not the world's best in Atapatu. So I thought the way she's bowled, Lakshmana's bowled, Jazar Clarkson, the seamer from the Royals as well, really impressive strides. And I think those overseas players and their influence is helping the maturity and development of some of the younger players in the region.
Yeah, certainly what last night's victory for the Trinbago Knight Riders does, Nikhil, is that it really sets up a massive clash in the final, because now you have two teams 1-1 this campaign. You think about it as well, 1-1 in titles, because the Knight Riders won the inaugural trophy. The Royals responded last year to win that one, and now they come to break the deadlock tomorrow. And it does set up a fascinating clash, doesn't it?
Yeah, massively, Ricardo. I think the main thing teams will be planning for tonight for the Royals is Dottin and Rodrigues. How do we get them out? How do we sort of frustrate them? I think they did that well to Dottin last night, where she likes to sort of get going early in the power play. It's why she's come up the order. So when she gets that bit of confidence with boundaries, I think she's able to really go forward. And I think for TKR, it's how do we put immense pressure on Hayley Matthews? Because the 2 times, that Hayley Matthews hasn't fired, the Royals have lost. When she's fired, the first 2 games in this tournament, they've won, not comprehensively, but they've won. So, yes, there's Atapatu there, but I think Dottin, Matthews, that is an excellent, tasty battle between those 2. And then the 2 subcontinent batters who both got 50s last night. Both teams will be placing a large emphasis on how do we remove those 2 batters early without them causing enough damage. And again, I think the toss comes into play. A bit different this time because it's a 3 o'clock game and not a 7 o'clock game where we've had all the women's CPL matches being at night. So that in itself is another predicament. Some of the 3 o'clock men's games, the surface has had a bit of moisture. The run rate in the first 6 overs has been, before yesterday's game, because obviously that was rain affected, the first 2 T20 internationals, the first 6 overs, teams are going at 6 runs and over. The second power play, they were going at 12s. Now, obviously that's men's cricket and it's different, but I'm just saying that because the surface could come into play, and the toss could become very important if you win that toss and you get to chase on that surface. And there's a lot of rain around in Trinidad and Tobago. So look, all these variables is what makes cricket so excellent. But I think it really sets up a tasty treat tomorrow for the viewers to watch.
Yeah, and how difficult do you think it will be for these players to transition from playing only at nights in the tournament so far to now playing the final in the daytime? I did hear one of the players speak to the fact that training has been mostly in the days and that they had little to no time to practice at nights ahead of the tournament. So who knows, maybe this will become a more comfortable situation for these players.
Yeah, and I'm thinking as well, one of the big drawbacks of the tournament has been the fielding effort, obviously the ground fielding as we discussed. And I'm wondering if the dew factor, the rain around has come into play with that. Now that you have a day game, a less wet ball hopefully will, encourage some better ground fielding. The catching, even though the ball has been wet, has been very good, I must say. So all those factors, I think, come into play. I think batting in the twilight period as well, as the sun goes down, the lights come into play. For inexperienced players, that could also prove a challenge. So there are a lot of variables. I think the responsibility will be on the experienced players. So those 4 batters that we spoke about, the likes of Ashika Pandey, Jade Wellington, who could potentially get some spin. But what I want to see is the team that bats first, whether it's Atapatu or Matthews or TKR with Dottin, if they're batting first and the surface does have a bit of moisture and it's tough, do they have enough skill? And I don't think it's a skill. I think they have the know-how. But can they be patient enough, especially in Deandra Dottin's case, where we saw her sort of get out, trying to be on the aggressive last night? Can they have enough patience to get through the first 3 or 4 overs, which could be tough? And we know Dottin has enough quality, and definitely Hayley Matthews, where they can easily make back up or find the boundary consistently. Because if you lose either Matthews or Dottin early, as we've seen, it is extremely detrimental. I mean, they won last night, TKR, but it was because of a Rodrigues masterclass. There hasn't been a lot of depth in that middle, especially from the local batters, that you can feel comfortable in a final with all the pressure on. If one of those two don't get off that, you can still get to a formidable total. So there's pressure on them. I think this is where we're going to see, the real superstar in them come out.
Yeah, definitely should be a very good watch come tomorrow. Of course, Nikhil, we couldn't allow you to leave without giving your prediction. Who wins it? The Royals, 4 matches, 3 victories, 1 defeat. That came against the Knight Riders last night. The Knight Riders 2-2 to sneak into the final. And they almost were out against the Guyana Amazon Warriors, but they found a way to get themselves in a position and then got the job done last night. So who will win it all?
I'm scared, Ricardo, because I feel if I get this wrong, I could be on the same level as the SportsMax football predictor, and we don't want to go down to those low levels. So I think
by the way, we've sent him on a break so he can get his act together and come back for the football season.
Right. Okay. Makes sense. I think I'm going to go with the Royals. I said them at the draft, and I think the quality of Matthews and Atapatu with both bat and ball, I think the surface will spin. And they've got Jade Wellington as well. And I think there's a lot of reliance on DeAndre Docklin tomorrow. And this is a high-pressure game. Hopefully, Chanel Henry is back. I think we forget how important she's been. The last time they played TKR, she got 2 wickets with the brand-new ball and was very good. So if she's recovered, I think that is a further advantage for them. I'm going the Barbados Royals with no bias because I'm from Barbados, just because I think they could be the better of the 2 teams on the day.
Yeah, don't worry, Nikhil. You might be from Barbados, but you're seen as a Caribbean man. You like breaks, right?
No, I don't like the breaks, but, I understand you have to pay the bills.
It's fine. If you don't get it right tomorrow, you'll get a break. We have to go to a break.
Okay.
Right, Mariah?
Okay, goodbye.
Let's take a break. We'll be back with more on the SportsMax Zone. We do have track and field to discuss, and there's what I hear is a very difficult Just the Facts coming up as well.